The wind that howled beyond the wall felt older than the world itself, an endless breath of cold that clawed at the black stones and the ragged battlements as though seeking entry. Atop the windswept parapet, Lord Commander Jeor Mormont braced his gauntlet hands against the ice-slick Merlin. He peered northward, toward horizons veiled in storm-torn snow, and for the first time since he had donned the black cloak decades ago, felt the creeping taste of dread. Ravens had stopped returning. Rangers vanished by the half-dozen, leaving only frozen tracks that ended abruptly in whiteness. Even the dire wolves beneath the wild forest had fallen silent. A lone horn blast, the call for riders returning, echoed from the shadowed courtyard below. Yet the note trembled, as though the breath behind it quavered. The old bear cursed under his breath and descended the stair, fur cloak snapping behind him like a banner of midnight. He found Samwell Tarly at the gate winch, crimson-faced and sweating despite the chill. "It's Gren's patrol, my lord," Sam stammered, voice cracking. Only Gren came back." The iron gate groaned upward. Snowblind lantern lights spilled across the killing ground beyond, revealing a single ranger staggering through the drift. Gren's cloak was torn to ribbons, the black dyed dark with something thicker than slush. His eyes, once merry, stared ahead without focus, and across his brow a veil of frost clung like a death mask. "They followed blue shadows," Gren whispered as they pulled him inside. "Ghost light in the trees. We thought it was a trick of moon's glow." Then Rast screamed, and his sword... He swallowed, lips splitting. His sword froze, shattered like glass. Jeor felt the courtyard walls press inward. He had heard tales beside the hearth as a boy of others clad in night steel, of corpses that walked. Tales and ale, nothing more. Yet Gren's wound wept a black ichor that smoked in the frigid air, and the steel studs of his gorget were rhymed with unnatural hoarfrost. "Get him to Maester Eamon," Jeor ordered, though his voice sounded distant to his own ears. "Summon every man still fit for battle. Wake every rookery. The wall must be warned." But even as the words left him, another sound rose, a keening like distant horns yet deeper, as though mountains themselves mourned. The very stones underfoot trembled. Somewhere above, ice cracked with the groan of a dying titan. Far south in Winterfell, Bran Stark dreamed of ravens. They spiraled beneath a sky of bleeding starlight, black wings beating in frantic terror. He saw the wall cracking, saw blue fire pulsing beneath translucent ice, and heard a vast heart beat once, twice, as though awakening. When Bran jolted upright in his bed of furs, his direwolf Summer was already pacing, hackles bristling. Somewhere below, Hodder bellowed Bran's name in confusion, and the faint clang of warning bells began to stir the night. Robb burst in moments later, red-haired and unarmored. "A raven from Castle Black," he said, thrusting a parchment sealed with hardened sap. The wax had shattered to frost in flight. "Father's already in the yard. They're calling banners." Bran's fingers trembled as he unfurled the trembling script. The ink had run in places, but the message was stark. "The Dead Walk. The wall is breached. Send fire and swords." Robb met his brother's wide eyes and tried to muster the smile he had used when Bran had fallen, months ago, to stave off despair. It would not come. "The king rides for King's Landing in a fortnight," he murmured almost to himself. "But winter rides for us tonight." Atop the Iron Throne, Robert Baratheon slumped in reckless mirth, flagon aloft, while lords quarreled below. News of Targaryen heirs and Dornish intrigues filled the hall like venomous steam, and the king drowned his unease in strong wine. Yet even drunken ears heard the silence that followed the arrival of a lone Night's Watch raven. Feathers streaked with ice dust, eyes milky and blind. Lord Eddard Stark opened the scroll, blood draining from his face. "Your Grace," he said, voice breaking the stillness like cold iron. "The wall is fallen." The hall erupted. Cersei's lip curled in contempt. "Children's stories," she scoffed. "Some northern trick to rouse your banners." But Ned read on, throat working. "Castle Black overrun. Eastwatch lost. The Night King leads an army of the dead. Each phrase struck like a hammer. They march south. Robert's laughter died. For a heartbeat, he seemed the warrior of old, eyes sharp, jaw set. Then fear crept in, subtle as rot. "How many men does the Night's Watch still hold?" he asked. "Fewer than 1,000, Ned replied. "Against tens of thousands risen and more with every village they cross." "Gods!" The king's shoulders sagged. "I thought the north some distant snowfield. Now the snow comes to us." His gaze drifted to the small council, to Pycelle's quivering jowls, to Baelish's calculating smile. "Send riders. Call banners from Dorne to the Twins. If winter is truly upon us, we face it together." Cersei's nails tapped the arm of her throne seat. "The crown is already drowned in debt," she hissed. "We cannot feed the realm's armies, let alone clothe them against cold that kills iron." Ned's gray eyes hardened. "You would count coppers while the dead storm our gates? I would not squander what little we have on phantoms." "Enough!" Robert roared, and the hall fell mute. "Phantoms or not, my forefathers raised this throne with fire and steel. I'll not yield it to blue-eyed corpses. We march north." Yet even as the declaration rang out, the torches guttered, as if a colder wind had reached even here. On the King's Road, refugees moved like a ragged river. Crofters, merchants, ladies with jewel-coffered hands. All fled southward, driven by whispers that the sun no longer rose on the gift. White walkers haunted their dreams. In the distance, every night, the aurora of corpse fire danced above the tree line, and wolves howled without cease. Arya Stark rode with Gendry and Hot Pie on stolen horses, needle at her hip. She had seen the columns of smoke where wildling camps once lay, not black, but gray-blue, drifting like the breath of giants. "They're close," she muttered. Gendry's hammer hung useless across his back. What good was iron against ice? Yet he rode beside her all the same. "King's Landing will protect us," he said, but the lie tasted of ash. At Riverrun, Lord Hoster's ravens returned bloodless, talons coated in rime. Catelyn Stark set aside grief for Winterfell and pleaded with her father's bannermen. "The wall is broken," she said, voice hoarse. "If we do not ride north now, there will be no south left to save." Some lords answered, old vows stirring. Others slipped away at dawn, choosing survival over honor. Robb arrived days later, a host of Karstarks and Manderleys at his back, gray wind prowling at his heels. They found the Tully courtyards in chaos. Small folk pouring through gates, weeping for bread. Fishmongers boiling river water to ward off chill. Blacksmiths reforging plowshares into crude spears tipped with dragonglass mined from Skagos at dire cost. Each day the river iced thicker, until catfish died beneath plates of blackening sludge. Catelyn embraced her son with tears frozen on her cheeks. "Your father marches from the capital," she told him. "But word from the Vale is grim. Lisa bars her gates. She claims the Eyrie will stand alone above any storm." Robb's jaw tightened. "Let her hide in her clouds. We hold the land's men must cross to reach warmth. If we falter, the dead will feast in the riverlands by winter's heart." In Old Town, the Hightower's beacon burned green gold, a plea to gods and men. Archmaester Marwyn scoured Valyrian scrolls for naming spells. When the long night fell, he muttered to acolytes trembling in the scriptorium. "The first men wrought a sword of Dawnfire. Dawn has been lost for centuries, yet rumors place it in the northmost vault of Starfall, guarded by Danes who swore never to draw it but for the world's ending." He slammed a copper fist on oak. "If this is not the world's ending, what is?" Lantern light flickered across dust-caked runes. Elsewhere in the Citadel, novices hammered obsidian into arrowheads, and Grand Maesters debated whether the dead could be reasoned with, as though necromantic parley might spare their hides. Daenerys Targaryen stood upon the deck of a modest trading cog in the Jade Sea, dragons swirling overhead. Word of Westeros's doom reached her via Lysene captains. A frost that ate men's souls, a phantom king with eyes like stars. "My brother Rhaegar sang of the Song of Ice and Fire," she told Ser Jorah. If ice now marches, does not fire belong to me? The knight bowed, though worry knitted his brow. The Dothraki fear water that horses cannot drink, he said, but dragons fear nothing. So she set her course toward Pentos, to ships thrice the size, to sell sails desperate enough to brave seas churned by frigid gales. Across her shoulders Drogon's shadow widened, as though sensing a rival flame upon distant snows. The army of the dead came on in silence. No horns, no drums, only the whisper of frost across brittle grass. At their forefront rode the Night King upon a stallion whose flesh hung like torn curtains, blue fire burning where blood once beat. His lieutenants flanked him, blades of crystalline ice shedding mist that killed the air. Behind them marched wights in endless ranks, wildlings, rangers, mammoths whose tusks glittered with rime. Every village they crossed added to their number. Every fallen foe rose anew, eyes snapping open with indigo hunger. At the neck, Moat Caelin's towers shone with wildfire, courtesy of Tyrion Lannister, who stood beside Theon Greyjoy atop the main rampart. "Stone might hold men," Tyrion said, torchlight flickering in his mismatched eyes. "But stone cracks under cold deeper than night. Pray fire serves where stone fails." Theon nodded, though his hand trembled on the rope that would release 3 tons of pitch upon the causeway when the time came. Yet as the undead ranks advanced, a deeper chill preceded them. Wildfire sputtered, green tongues dying to black, oil congealing in vats. Tyrion's heart hammered. "Light it!" he screamed. But torches snuffed in hands, sparks hissed into darkness, and Theon could only stare as luminous blue shadows crossed the marsh and the last light of man guttered out. In the ruins of Eastwatch by the sea, Jon Snow crouched beside a heap of twisted steel, the shattered bars of the gate. Every step crunched on glass-like shards of frozen blood. Ghost whined at his side, muzzle flecked with frost, reluctant to enter. Of the garrison, they found only corpses propped against walls, eyelids frozen half open, expressions locked in terror. Jon grasped the pommel of Longclaw, Valyrian steel warm as summer in his palm. He could almost hear the sword hum, eager for foes worthy of its metal. Tormund Giantsbane, one of few free folk to survive the breach, spat upon the barracks floor, spittle freezing before it landed. "We thought the Night King a ghost story," he growled, "but ghosts don't shatter gates with bare hands." Jon looked east, where a wound in the wall bled swirling snow into the sky. "We ride south," he said, "warn every hearth between here and Winterfell. Steel and fire alone will not stop him." Tormund grinned, savage and weary. "Then we'll forge a fire the dead cannot quench." Night fell over the Riverlands. Catelyn and Robb stood upon the western rampart of Riverrun as refugees pressed against the outer gates, torches bobbing like lanternflies. A hush settled when a horn sounded from the east bank. A thin rider flickered into view, banner trailing behind, a direwolf stitched silver on black. Lord Eddard led his column across the Red Fork, armor iced from hard riding. When he dismounted, his eyes found Catelyn's, and in them she saw the fracture of hope. "We passed 4 villages put to the torch," Ned said quietly. "No tracks save those of the dead. They head this way." His gaze lingered on Robb's young face. "We must hold them here long enough to evacuate the Crownlands. If Riverrun falls, King's Landing will have no warning before winter swallows the Trident." Robb squared his shoulders. "We hold." Overhead, a single star flared crimson, then faded, a thing no maester could name. Yet every child on the parapet felt its chill, and mothers wept without knowing why. South of the Blackwater Rush, in a brothel packed with muttering small folk, Sandor Clegane emptied a flagon in one gulp. Fires burned bright on every hearth to ward off imagined cold. But when a drunken sellsword boasted that the king's armies would slice the dead like sausages, the hound smashed his face into the table. "You can't kill what's already dead," he snarled. "And even if you could, they'll kill you first. Best you run." "Run where?" the man whimpered through broken teeth. Sandor glared toward the shuttered window. Somewhere beyond, the sky flashed with witchlight. "As far south as ships will sail." In the halls beneath Dragonstone, Melisandre watched flames dance across ancient painted stone. Shapes coiled and writhed within the fire. A horned king with eyes of cold flame, wolves at war with stag and lion, a sword burning with dawn light that split night itself. She pressed crimson nails to her heart, sensing the distant pulse of power that beat in Jon Snow's blood, in Daenerys's dragons, in a blade hidden beneath Starfall's oldest tower. All three were needed, or all three would die, and darkness would reign eternal. Azor Ahai, she whispered, eyes reflecting fires both living and dead. Come fort. But beyond the island's basalt cliffs, winds shifted, and with them the flames dimmed, as though some greater night approached to snuff them out. The Night King reached the twins beneath a moon pale as old bone. Walder Frey's towers, once lively with torches, now stood silent, dread a seal stronger than stone. As whites waded into the shallows, the Freys unleashed volleys of arrows tipped with oils, and bridges were set alight. But the heat barely lingered. Fire guttered as though choked by unseen hands. Frost climbed ropes and beams, extinguishing flame, and when the Night King raised one long, icy arm, the waters of the Green Fork stilled, hardening to an argent mirror. Across that frozen causeway the dead advanced, and men screamed as they drew steel already brittle with frost. From afar, Robb Stark rallied horse and foot, but the frost bridge cracked under hooves, and screams of drowning men echoed beneath the ice. Gray wind leapt among whites, tearing rotted flesh, yet each kill barely stemmed the tide. At Robb's side, Great Jon Umber wielded a two-handed axe, the blade shattering when it met the Night King's lieutenant's spear. Blue shards fused with steel, creeping ice racing down the haft into flesh, and Umber roared once before silence claimed him. Robb saw the lieutenant turn then, eyes luminous under a helm of rime. In the glint of that stare he saw Winterfell's hearths cold, Bran's laughter stilled, Rickon's wooden swords frozen mid-swing. Rage surged like wildfire, and with a cry he buried his broken sword into the white-caked ground, dragging a torch across oil-soaked reeds. Flames roared high, encircling the bridge's base. For a single breath the east tower burned brighter than day, and whites shriveled in the heat. But the Night King merely raised his hand. Snow lashed downward in a blinding sheet, smothering fire, freezing stone until it cracked apart with a sound like thunder. The dead surged anew. Robb's horse bucked beneath him, eyes rolling white. Someone seized his cloak. Alive or dead, he couldn't tell. Then a sudden shadow swept overhead. A dragon's roar, ancient and terrible. Black wings, red-veined, hammered the air. Drogon descended in a vortex of embers, talons ripping through corpses. Upon his back, Daenerys Targaryen's silver hair gleamed like moonlight on a blade. Dracarys, the word split night. Drogon's breath became a torrent of searing flame that burned so hot the ice bridge burst into steam. Whites exploded in char and cinder. Even Valyrian steel glowed white-hot in the wave. Robb staggered back as heat scorched his face, but elation surged. The living had dragons. Yet within the conflagration, the Night King strode unharmed, frost curling from his shoulders. He watched Drogon will above, expression unreadable. Raising his spear of living ice, he hurled it skyward with impossible force. It struck the dragon's wing, ripping a path of crystallized flesh. Drogon shrieked. Blood like molten iron sprayed, hissing upon snow. The spear fell away, yet the wound bled cold, and scales blackened where frost crept. Daenerys clung to the saddle, horror etched upon her face. She guided Drogon southward, flanked by Rhaegal and Viserion, whose own roars split the clouds. But as they limped to higher skies, Daenerys looked down to see the twins awash in shadows. The Night King gazed up, spear raised once more, and she felt a shiver that no fire could warm. By the time dawn broke, if dawn it was, for the sun rose weak and silver behind a veil of icy haze, the Riverlands were lost. Robb Stark gathered what remained of his army and retreated toward Harrenhal, its blackened towers promising at least walls thick enough to slow death. Refugees clogged every road, dragged carts laden with children and memory. Far to the east, dragons circled like wounded hawks, their fire now a thin glow against the advancing white. In King's Landing, bells tolled a dirge. Merchants boarded shopfronts with iron and prayer. The Red Keep filled with smoke as pyromancers brewed wildfire by the gallon, though rumor spoke of cold that could quell even green flame. Robert Baratheon stood on the city walls in dented mail, blinking at snowflakes drifting on a wind no summer city had ever known. Each flake burned where it landed, a promise of deeper cold to come. Beside him, Ned Stark drew his cloak tighter and watched black banners appear on the horizon. Stannis, Renly, Tyrell. Old feuds set aside beneath the shadow of extinction. Yet the gates creaked under sudden frost, hinges moaning like souls in torment, and he knew alliances forged in fear could shatter under terror. "We have days, perhaps a fortnight," Ned said. "Enough to send ships south across the narrow sea. The Undulls once fled the long night by sail. We may do the same." Robert blew mist from his beard. "Run, like craven mice? I marched on the trident for a crown. I'll not flee for my life while sons of usurpers still breathe." He spat into the snow, and the spittle clinked to ice before it hit the stone. Ned laid a gloved hand on his friend's arm. "You marched for Lyanna, for love, for vengeance. March now for the living." Robert's shoulders sagged. "And if we fall, then let our fall by time for our children." A silence stretched between them, filled by the hush of falling snow. Deep in the godswood of Winterfell, Bran dreamed again. Ravens wheeled above a shattered wall, their cries a single name, again and again. In the dream, he walked the crypts hand in hand with a boy of pale skin and midnight eyes. The boy told him of ancient pacts broken, of cold children left in forests to appease winter's hunger. "The wall was never a prison," the boy said, voice like cracking ice. "It was a promise." When Bran asked what promise, the boy opened his mouth, and snow poured out until Bran woke choking on cold air. Maester Luwin found him at dawn. "Word from White Harbor," he said, though sadness weighed every syllable. "The Manderleys sail south with refugees. They will not hold the city. The dead have crossed the Wolfswood." Bran's small hand fisted in the furs. "Summer will fight," he whispered. Luwin blinked away tears. "Summer will fight," he agreed, though neither believed victory any longer. Night's shroud thickened. At Harrenhal's cracked windows, Arya watched the sky glitter with strange stars, auroras of dead fire weaving ribbons of sapphire and violet. She had seen battle, had plunged needle into throats, yet nothing prepared her for this hush, the quiet before the end of men. Below, blacksmiths forged arrowheads of dragonglass. Gendry hammered at the forge, face streaked with soot and determination. Sparks flew like fireflies, brief and bright against encroaching dark. Arya descended, watched him shape the glass, plunged the point into water that steamed. Their eyes met. In that moment, steel and glass mattered less than the warmth of another heartbeat. She reached out, touched his soot-smudged cheek. "Don't die," she said. "Not before you," he replied, grinning though fear shone behind his eyes. The Night King stood upon a ridge overlooking the trident. Corpses of fallen nobles rode beside him. Umber, Frey, Tallheart, their eyes born anew in icy hue. He raised one hand. A blizzard gathered, vast wings of storm unfurling. Snow fell so thick the world vanished beyond arm's reach. In that blind whiteness the dead advanced, unerring. Ravens scattered before the storm, black flecks swallowed by white. Yet one bird bore southward, beating wings bleeding, driven by Bran's will. It reached Dragonstone, collapsing at the feet of Melisandre. She lifted it, felt the heat of living blood still pumping in its fragile body, and knew the hour had come. "Dragonstone forged the conqueror's fire," she murmured. "Now it must birth a fire greater still." She ascended the winding stairs to the chamber where Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen, and Ser Davos waited amid maps strewn with fallen castles. Placing the wounded raven upon the table, she met Jon's dark eyes. "You are the blood of ice and fire," she said. "The wall has fallen because the ancient pact was broken. Only the forging of a new pact can mend it." Daenerys's lips tightened. "What pact? Life for death," Melisandre whispered. "Heart for flame. Steel born of sun's fire, wielded by one who is fire made flesh." Jon's voice rasped. "Valyrian steel? More. A lightbringer tempered in king's blood." Daenerys stepped forward. "Then use mine. I am the blood of old Valyria." But Melisandre turned to Jon. "Your blood is the song of ice and fire itself, Stark and Targaryen entwined. Only such blood may wake Lightbringer." She placed a dragonglass dagger before him. Daenerys caught Jon's wrist. "There must be another way." Yet outside, thunder boomed. Though no clouds marked the sky, a crack like shattering stone rolled across the sea. Smoke rose on the horizon where King's Landing burned wildfire to stave frost. Time itself seemed to falter under weight of approaching night. Jon stared at the dagger, then at the map littered with tokens fallen sideways. "My blood may forge the blade, but whose hand will wield it?" Melisandre's gaze flicked to Daenerys, then to Ser Davos, then back to Jon. "The hand that bears flame and mercy both." Jon looked to Daenerys again. In her violet eyes he saw the reflection of a fire yet unlit, a dawn yet unrisen. He drew a slow breath. "Then let me wield it." "Jon," Davos whispered, grief thick in his voice. But Jon lifted the dagger, pressed its obsidian edge to his palm. Blood welled dark and steaming even in the chill chamber. He let it drip upon the bronze of an ancient Valyrian forge plate etched with runes no maester alive could name. Flames roared up, hungry and white. The dagger drank the blood, stone vein line pulsing. Melisandre chanted, arms raised. Wind whipped the tower, rattling shutters, and the dragons outside screeched in answer, wings beating turbulent ground swells. Steel glowed, brighter than dawn, until the chamber filled with a radiance that blinded. And far to the north, beneath the Night King's feet, the frozen earth cracked, releasing a faint warmth that rose in spirals of mist. Tongues of flame licking at ancient ice, challenging its dominion. The Night King paused, sensing the shifting balance. For the first time, something akin to curiosity glimmered in those frigid eyes. At the Blackwater Bay, ships crowded the harbor, sails unfurled for flight. But common folk rushed not to embark but to douse ropes with oil, volunteers rowing jars of wildfire beneath piers, ready to ignite the bay should the dead step upon sea ice. Tyrion oversaw from a battered skiff, one hand clutching a bundle of dragonfire arrows. Brienne of Tarth stood upon the quay, Oathkeeper across her broad back. "If ice reaches water, it will freeze the harbor solid," she warned. "Then no ship sails, and no city stands." Tyrion swallowed. "Then we keep the water boiling." He eyed clouds gathering northward. "Let us hope dragons favor soup." The long night deepened. At Harrenhal, Robb Stark met Daenerys in the courtyard still wet with dragon blood. She dismounted Drogon, wincing at his wounds now bound in Valyrian chains, runes glowing faintly. "He will fly," she said, "but the next spear may not miss his heart." Robb offered water. Their eyes met over the rim of the cup, two heirs bound by calamity. "My banners are broken," he confessed, "but they will follow fire." He nodded toward Drogon. "And you?" She drank, winced at the taste of copper on her tongue. "Fire alone cannot end night," she said, "but fire with ice, perhaps." At that, Jon Snow emerged, Lightbringer sheathed at his hip, blade faintly aglow beneath leather. The warmth of it curled vapor from snowflakes before they could touch him. Robb's breath caught. Bran's dreams, old Nan's tales, all coalesced in that shimmer. "Ride with me," Jon said, "to King's Landing. We gather the last armies, the last dragons, the last hope." Robb laid hand on Jon's shoulder. Then the brothers of Winterfell ride together once more. Daenerys mounted Drogon, scarlet cloak billowing. Jon swung astride Rhaegal, whose emerald scales glistened where frost could not cling. Above, Viserion howled, eager for vengeance. 3 dragons wheeled, rising upon thermals born of their own heat. Below, armies formed, Northmen, Reachmen, Stormlanders, even Sellswords lured by survival's only coin. Under Harrenhal's black towers, the last alliance of living flesh marched, torches winking like embers in a sea of ash. The Night King reached the fields of Ashford as moon set. Wildfire trenches burst in walls of incandescent green, yet cold pressed inward, and flames bent like reeds before glacier wind. He raised both arms, and in answer, the corpses buried beneath millennia of soil clawed free, children of the Dawn Age, clutching rusted bronze spears, eyes blue as winter stars. From the south, the sky blossomed red as dawn. Dragons descended, streaks of living fire. Jon thrust Lightbringer forward, its white flare carving a path of radiance that severed shadows. Robb at his side led the charge of living men, gray wind leaping flames. Steel met ice, fire met night. Snow turned to steam where Lightbringer struck, whites bursting into showers of sapphire shards. Drogon's breath carved molten rivers through frost. Yet the Night King strode unharmed, raising spear after spear, each frozen missile hurled with unerring doom. One grazed Viserion's neck. The dragon shrieked, spiraling but steady. Another struck Grey Wind, icicle punching through ribs. The dire wolf howled once, falling amidst ash and snow. Robb's cry echoed across the field. He rushed to his fallen friend, but more whites surged. Jon spurred Regal lower, Lightbringer cleaving the horde. He saw Robb's despair harden into wrath. The king in the north seized a fallen dragonglass spear, rose amidst corpses, and with each throw felled another dead thing. Yet for every white slain, 2 more rose from the scarred earth. Daenerys banked Drogon, flame roaring. She saw the Night King draw back an arm. She urged Drogon higher, but the spear flew swift. At that instant, Regal veered, placing emerald bulk between spear and queen. Ice tore wing membranes, lodging deep. Jon felt the dragon shudder beneath him. Blood, hot and steaming, rained. Regal faltered, dropping. Jon leapt, rolling across churned snow. He rose, Lightbringer blazing. The Night King advanced, icy crown glinting. Around them, battle slowed, flames dying in hush. Frost crept up Jon's boots, furs stiffening. The Night King raised his sword of sky-forged ice. Jon lifted Lightbringer. Blades met with a scream that split heaven and earth. Frost exploded outward, but Lightbringer's fire repelled it, a sphere of warmth amid desolation. Jon felt strength drain with each clash. The sword demanded more. His blood, his breath, his very life. Yet within that fire he glimpsed the wall rebuilt, children laughing before hearths, spring blossoms on Winterfell's ramparts. He drove forward, blade piercing the Night King's guard. Flame licked ice, but the Night King seized Jon's throat with a grip colder than the void. Vision dimmed, lungs froze. Still Jon pushed Lightbringer deeper. Crackles spidered through crystalline armor, fissures glowing dawn white. A snarl unlike any human sound escaped the Night King's lips. Then Daenerys dove. Drogon's jaws clamped upon the Night King's arm. Bones of frozen fire shattered. Jon wrenched free, Lightbringer flashing in a wide arc. The blade bit deep into the Night King's chest, and for an instant silence. The world seemed to hold a single breath. A sound like breaking glass rang. The Night King's form burst into shards of radiant ice, a nova of azure flame rushing outward. Whites halted, limbs jerking, then collapsed by the thousand, strings cut. Snow melted in circles around their fallen husks. Frost retreated from firelight. Dawn crested at last, sun weak but golden on horizon. Men and women watched as blue auroras faded, replaced by rose-tinged sky. In that fragile glow, survivors wept, not for victory but for continued life. Jon fell to his knees. Lightbringer dimmed, the last ember dying. Daenerys slid from Drogon's saddle, caught him. His lips were blue, breath shallow. "It is done," she whispered. But Jon's gaze turned north, toward lands still cloaked in winter shadow. "The wall," he croaked. "Breach must mend." Daenerys held him tight as healers rushed. Robb knelt beside, blood of direwolf and brother staining his mail. Together they watched the sun climb, frail, ember-small, yet promising day. Far away, atop the jagged remains of the wall, jagged cracks hissed with dawn light. Ice flowed, molten, then refroze smooth and seamless. Somewhere beneath, old magic stirred, reweaving sigils forgotten by men. Ravens took flight, black feathers against morning gold, cawing one word in tongues older than speech: hope. And so the longest night ended not in blinding triumph, but in a sunrise carried on dragon wings and bought with the hearts of wolves and men. The living gathered their dead, lit pyres that smoked into a sky now free of auroras. They mourned, they rebuilt, they remembered. For though victory had come, winter's scars remained, a reminder carved in frost and flame that the wall was not a prison but a promise. One sealed anew by blood of ice and fire, that darkness might never again march unchallenged across the lands of the living. The chill that lingered after the Night King's fall was more than mere weather. It was a hush of dread that clung to every soul still breathing on Ashford's scarred fields. Dawn's frail warmth seeped through rents in the clouds, but the living felt no comfort. They watched pyres kindle all morning, ragged pillars of smoke honoring brothers, sisters, lovers, and wondered whether fire could ever be bright again. Jon Snow lay in a healer's pavilion fashioned from torn banners and wagon cloth. His breath steamed in short, uneven clouds. The gash at his throat, where the Night King's fingers had seared flesh to iceburn, bled slowly despite salves of garlic and pine resin. Daenerys refused to leave his side. She pressed a damp cloth to his brow, whispering tales of Valyria, stories of river singers who healed wounds with dragon song. Rhaegal lay beyond the canvas wall, wing-bound in silver-etched chain, his slow heartbeat vibrating the ground. Every pulse echoed through Jon's bones like the tolling of distant bells. When at last his eyes flickered open, Daenerys exhaled a breath she had not known she held. "The blade lives," he rasped, fingers twitching toward Lightbringer where it lay wrapped in crimson cloth. "But the fire remains," she said, though her voice trembled. "Rest, the wall is healing itself." Bran wrote from Winterfell, "Cracks have sealed 3 leagues wide. We've bought time." "Time is ash in the wind," Melisandre murmured, parting the tent flap. Her red silks rustled like embers. The Night King was but a gatekeeper. Beyond the gate lies the storm's heart, and it still beats. Daenerys rose, anger flaring. "We broke his host, smashed his crown. And yet listen." Melisandre tilted her head. Outside, the world seemed silent, until one strained to hear the faintest throb, like distant drums beneath earth. Thud, thud, thud. A heartbeat no mortal chest could contain. Jon shuddered. Melisandre knelt beside him. Lightbringer burned a mortal vessel of the long night, but the cold that birthed him endures in the far north, beyond shattered mountains where even dragons fear to fly. While that heart endures, shadows may rise anew. Jon forced himself upright. Pain lanced his spine, yet he steadied on one elbow. "Then we finish it." Daenerys' hand closed about his. "You cannot ride. Not now." "I can," he said, soft but sure. "And must. Fire has answered ice, but ice will answer back unless we snuff the source." Melisandre's crimson gaze flicked between them. "To reach that source, the living must tread paths none remember. The children of the forest may guide us, if any remain." Jon's mind flashed to Bran, to dreams of ravens and weirwood thrones. "Bran can find them. Then summon him," Melisandre said. "Have him meet us at the wall, where old spells gather thickest. Their Lightbringer may drink deeper flame, and the dragons may carry fire where men cannot walk." 3 dragons, Daenerys whispered, glancing at Drogon's pitted scales, Viserion's torn membrane, Rhaegal's bound wing. "All wounded." "Dragons heal," Melisandre replied, "but heart fire dwindles when hope falters. Keep the fires burning. Feed them with faith." Daenerys stiffened. Faith alone did not save Viserion's throat. Spears of ice pierced flesh. We need steel and men. Armor stout enough to weather stars turned blue. Steel alone will bend, Melisandre said. But steel guided by prophecy. Jon's laugh was raw. Prophecy nearly killed us. I'll trust blades and courage. And what forged Lightbringer, if not prophecy? Silence hung brittle. Daenerys squeezed Jon's hand. We ride when you can stand. Not a heartbeat sooner. He relented, sagging back. Outside, men shouted orders. Robb's voice, hoarse, summoning carpenters to repair wagons for the wounded. Jon closed his eyes and let the sounds of work lull him. Yet the phantom heartbeat beneath earth never ceased. At Harrenhal 3 days later, the War Council gathered beneath the hall's melted towers. Blackened stone wept moisture under unseasonal thaw. Torrents of dragonfire had cracked frozen mortar, and now the ruins dripped like a leaky roof in spring. Tyrion Lannister perched atop a splintered throne leg, scribbling logistics on vellum. Grain from the Reach, for days behind, he reported. Ironborn wine, gone though the casks remain. They turned seawater bitter into brine. Armorsmiths can reshod half the cavalry within the fortnight, if we procure more pig iron from Tarth. Suggestions? Ser Davos rubbed his beard. We may scavenge nails from the bridge idol at Maidenpool. Ships rotted there when the dead froze the bay. Arya stood to the side, arms crossed, needle at her hip. Why waste time hammering iron? She said. Dragonglass kills walkers. Old Town's quarries still dig it by the ton. Tyrion nodded. True, but dragonglass shatters after 2 or 3 strikes. Cavalry lances fare poorly when breaking. He scratched a note. Find ferrum obsidian alloy? Robb paced the flagstones, eyes sunken. We can't delay for reshotting when winter's heart still beats. We march to the wall within the week. Catelyn stepped forward, grief masking resolve. We march, but our wounded outnumber swords. The river lords must guard the crossings we deserted, else the cold returns behind us. Robb's jaw tightened. Lady Mormont commands the vanguard. The Beryl girls would sooner die than abandon a watchtower. They'll hold. Catelyn's gaze softened. She clasped his arm. He met her eyes and exhaled. Very well, she said. Then we ride with dragons at our backs. Across the table, Daenerys spread a charcoal map Bran had sent by Raven. Inked via trembling hand in Winterfell's library. Mountain ridges north of the Frostfangs, valleys etched with suspicious glyphs. Ancient children's runes marking caves older than men. A red X lay beyond the northernmost peak. Brienne frowned. No rider ever crossed that pass. Storms there swallow whole companies. And yet the children dwelled, Melisandre said, brushing fingertips across the X. There beats the winter heart. Tormund spat on the floor. Snow and wind ain't the worst. Legends say a lake of black glass sits there, mirror to the sky, where shadows crawl inside you. Jaime Lannister leaned on his silver-capped cane, an ugly souvenir from white steel that had cleaved his knee. Then shadows had better fear my sister's wildfire. She sent cases of it, if you've forgotten. His sardonic tone drew scowls. No wildfire north of the wall, Jon said quietly, entering the hall. His voice carried despite weakness. Wildfire gutters in deep cold. We trust dragons and Lightbringer, or we burn ourselves for naught. With effort, he walked to the table, left leg stiff. Lightbringer's unseen heat shimmered the air near his belt. The council fell silent at its glow. I will ride Regal when his wing mends, Jon continued. Daenerys on Drogon.
Viserion vers no rider.
He glanced at Arya, her eyes widened. A protest stirred, but he lifted a hand. No untrained seat can tame a dragon. We free Viserion to hairy flanks. Daenerys nodded. We strike the storm's heart with fire made manifest. While we ride, Robb leads men along the Milkwater, cutting stragglers and clearing white nests. Tyrion ensures supplies flow behind. Robb gripped Jon's forearm. One Stark goes north, one Stark stays south. Yet both defend the realm. Catelyn touched both sons' faces. Tears shimmered, but she blinked them back. The realm depends on you. I will guard the injured, as I once guarded cradles. Tyrion gathered scrolls. Then let it be writ. Dragons fly at dawn 5 days hence. May the 7, and whichever fiery shadows you fancy, shield your wings. For days later, Bran Stark stood in Winterfell's Godswood, his weirwood throne of carved roots glistening with hoarfrost. Ravens perched in silent semicircle, eyes black as glass. He breathed the sap-sweet air, his own breath mingling with thousand-year mist. Children, he murmured. The ravens cawed once. Vision flared white-green. He saw tunnels twisting beyond earth, glowing glyphs that pulsed like heartbeat. He touched each rune with ghostly fingers, sending silent pleas. Somewhere deep, a reply, a ripple across roots. Not words, but intention we hear. The ground trembled. Sap rose in sudden tide. Leaves rustled though no wind blew. Summer, aging but unbowed, trotted to Bran's side, muzzle raised. Bran placed a hand on the direwolf's skull, closed milky eyes. Through summer's nose, he scented foreign snows and smoke of unseen pyres. Colors inverted. The world turned to threads of silver and crimson. In that tapestry, one thread shone brightest, a path north of the Frostfangs where trees glowed emerald in eternal night. He marked it, binding thought to memory, then severed the vision with a gasp. Maester Luwin steadied him. "What did you see?" "A door," Bran said. "Open, but closing." He swallowed. "Tell Jon the children await. He must reach the Green Moon Hollow before Dragonfire fails." Luwin shivered. "Green Moon?" Bran smiled faintly. Their word for a weirwood sapling that grows under Aurora. Rare, impossible now save one grove. It will guide him. Luwin bowed. "I will send a raven." "No," Bran said. "Ravens can't fly so far, not with storms rising. I will send myself." He closed his eyes again. Above the castle, a great rook burst from the rookery, wingspan broad as a war-kite, feathers night-black tipped bone-white. It soared north, faster than any steed. Luwin watched until it vanished, then crossed himself. Dawn of departure came harsh and clear. Frost rimed every blade, yet dragonfire steamed it to fog. Regal flexed wounded wing. Leather staples gleamed where chain had mended flesh. Jon climbed, braced by Ghost's cold nose nudging his boot. He scratched the direwolf's ear. "Guard Robb," he whispered. Ghost whined low but remained. Daenerys swung into Drogon's saddle, silver braid whipping. Drogon growled, smoke curling. Viserion circled overhead, shrieking for lost skies. Below, Robb raised sword in salute. Tormund roared. The host clashed spear to shield. Melisandre lifted twin torches, chanting in High Valyrian. Flames turned white. Ash drifted upward in spirals, clinging to dragon scales like constellations. Glaring sun broke the horizon. Jon signaled. Regal leapt. Air slammed his chest, ripped tears from eyes. Below, world shrank. Siege towers ant-small, banners tiny sparks of color. Drogon rose alongside, crimson maw tossing a celebratory jet of flame. Viserion darted, wingtips brushing clouds. South wind swept their backs, but north wind met them head-on, frigid, fierce. Frost formed on leather, but Lightbringer's warmth seeped through Jon's cloak, warding cold. Hours blurred. Mountains uncoiled beneath, white spines bristling. Afternoon sun dulled behind thickening haze. Sky turned pewter. By dusk they reached the wall. The breach, now a vast crater of half-melted ice, glimmered with new-formed crystal where magic fought to reseal. Blue mist seeped upward, curling like sighs. They landed at a platform carved from collapse. Jon dismounted, knees buckling. Men of the Watch, those few still breathing, knelt, awe shining. "Lord Snow," Dolorous Ed greeted, face gaunt. "We've buried more brothers than we can name, but the ice is knitting." He gestured. Cracks hissed with steam, fusing inch by inch. A slow stitch, but steady. Time enough, Jon hoped. He He studied the northern horizon. A half-moon cast silver on endless tundra. Somewhere beyond, that eldritch heartbeat sounded. Daenerys joined him. Tonight we rest, tomorrow beyond. Rhaegal and Drogon curled round each other in a makeshift nest of blackened timber. Viserion perched on a ruined tower, eyes scanning gloom. Jon laid a bedroll near fading coals. Sleep came fitful. Memories of the Night King's grip, Grey Wind's death howl, Rhaegal's blood spray. Yet in one dream, he walked a forest of glass leaves under green aurora. A child of the forest waited by a pool of mirror-black water. Its eyes were pools of topaz. It touched Jon's chest, cold, not cruel, and whispered without voice. "Bring the star that bleeds fire, and the heart shall close." Jon woke before dawn, pulse pounding. He rose, found Melisandre already tending a small flame inside a frozen hearth. "Children?" she asked. He nodded. "They wait. Then come." She drew Lightbringer. Its metal thrummed in her grip. "Feed the sword." Jon sliced his palm again. Fresh blood hissed, soaking the blade. The steel blazed bright, whitening the chamber. "Each gift weakens you," she warned. "But at journey's end the sword must hold the sun." "I'll give what's needed," Jon said. "A lord's duty." They rode dragons at sunrise, plunging into a world bereft of birdsong. A blizzard swept from the north, thick with knives of ice. Yet Rhaegal forged a tunnel of hot wind, wings beating thunder. Drogon kept pace. Viserion danced ahead, scattering wraith snow. By midday, mountains rose like frozen breakers. Jon pointed to a narrow pass choked in mist. The path Bran's vision showed. They descended, talons crunching glacial crust. Here the cold felt older, hungrier. Light dimmed until daylight seemed dusk. They trekked on foot, dragons lumbering behind. Melisandre murmured charms, torches never dimming despite bitter gales. The path wound through crevasses where ice walls pulsed faint blue, as though alive. At the pass's throat, a cavern mouth yawned, a maw of onyx glass reflecting their torchlight. Jon stepped toward it. Lightbringer glimmered violet. Within, green phosphorescence licked the air. Daenerys reached for his arm. Together, he nodded and they entered. Inside, walls of obsidian rose smooth and ancient. Glyphs glowed faintly. Spirals, weirwood leaves, fire sigils. The cave floor sloped down to a vast chamber where water as black as void lay still as death. Above it, stalactites dripped luminous emerald. And on a dais of rootstone across the lake stood three figures no taller than children, skin bark brown mottled with moss green. Their eyes shone gold. One stepped forward, voice like wind through leaves. "Ice again seeks dominion, but fire has answered." It gestured to Lightbringer. "We forged first wall with your kindred's might. We forged starsteel when last night fell. Now heart of winter beats, wounded but alive. Seal it, or night will bloom anew." Jon raised the sword. Heat rippled. "Show us the heart." The children pointed to the lake. "Beneath lies the shard of first frost, seed of endless winter. Shatter it with flame made whole. But flame must be bound. Life to power it, dragon to bear it." Melisandre knelt, spreading arms. Blood of prophecy flows in him. Fire of prophecy in her. She touched Jon's chest, Daenerys' hand. Together they are the dawn. The child's eyes dimmed. "Only with sacrifice." Jon closed eyes. "What sacrifice?" "Bond life to flame forever. Two hearts, one fire. Sword must quench in burning blood. Thus winter's seed melts." Daenerys stiffened. "You ask our deaths?" "Not death," the child said. "Transcendence. Lives join flame eternal to guard realms of men. Winter dies, but guardians never walk among men again. They become the wall's soul, as we once were." Silence. Water rippled with unseen current. Drogon's low growl echoed. Rhaegal hissed.
"Jon met Daenerys Kees."
Love and fear tangled. "We came to save the living," he whispered. "If our lives seal peace for ages." She touched his cheek. "I crossed seas for a throne, found only ashes of crowns. What is a throne beside the world? Tears glimmered, freezing on lashes. If we do this, promise me the wheel truly breaks. The wheel ends here, Jon said. He looked to Melisandre. Tell Robb, tell Tyrion, the realm is theirs to mend. No more dragons. Melisandre bowed. It shall be done. They stepped onto the water, yet feet found unseen crystal bridging to the dais. Lightbringer flared, haloing them in dawn-white glow. Children began to sing, a sound older than speech, harmonies of root and rain and wildfire. The lake boiled green flame around obsidian walls. Drogon and Rhaegal roared, wings beating cyclones. Viserion shrieked, banks of snow avalanching outside. Jon pressed blade to Daenerys' palm. He sliced his own. Their blood mingled on steel, sizzling. The sword blazed until eyes watered. Together they plunged Lightbringer into the lake, into the seed of first frost. Water exploded in pillar of steam bright as nova. Shockwaves staggered dragons. Stalactites shattered. Pain, endless, incandescent, tore through them. Yet within pain, peace. They felt hearts merge with sword, sword with flame, flame with earth. Voices of children, of old gods, of unborn generations rang like distant bells. Light engulfed all. Far to the south, every hearth in Westeros flared bright for an instant. Every shadow fled. At the wall, fissures sealed with thunderous snap. Ice smoothed glass clear, pulsing warm. In Winterfell Godswood, weirwood leaves unfolded scarlet against sky for first time in centuries. On Ashford's fields, Robb halted mid-stride as aurora of red gold fire swept the heavens. Wounded men felt heat soothe marrow. Dying horses stood anew. Tyrion blinked tears, awed, whispering, "Dawn!" When light faded, the cavern stood silent. Lake gone, replaced by crater of steaming crystal already cooling. No sign of Jon, of Daenerys, of Lightbringer. Only two dragons coiled around obsidian pillar, eyes sorrowful. Viserion circled overhead, keening. The children knelt where the sword had pierced. Balance restored, one murmured. Guardians born. They placed palm to crystal. Deep within, twin streaks of gold and silver light intertwined. Heart of flame, endless, quiet. Seasons turned. Snow fell still but gentle. Crops sprouted in frost-cleared soil. At the reconstructed wall, Black brothers kept watch, yet fear no longer gnawed. Its ice hummed. A pulse felt underfoot warm, reassuring. Robb Stark was crowned king in the reforged north, though he sent tribute of grain and timber to Southlands weary of war. Tyrion served as hand, penning charters that forbade crowns forged by conquest. The realm became a patchwork of free kingdoms bound by mutual vow. No king shall lift blade against another without leave of all. The wheel broken in truth. In V's Dothrak, storytellers spoke of sky lovers who rode dragons into sunfire. In Karth, priests lit twin lanterns each dusk, honoring the flamebound who halted eternal night. And at Dragonstone, Melisandre kept vigil before a new kindled heartfire that never dimmed, claiming it echoed two heartbeats melded beyond mortal flesh. Yet sometimes, on cloudless nights, auroras of red-white shimmer over Frostfangs, and watch brothers swear they hear distant wings. A hush falls upon the wall then, warm as summer breeze. Ravens pause mid-caw, heads cocked as if listening. And old Gior, retirement finally granted, tells green recruits, "Listen close, that's the Guardians reminding us. Light one, but only while we tend the flame." Recruits laugh, yet keep lanterns trimmed and torches ready. For though the heart of winter lies silent, echo of its dread lingers, a lesson carved in ice and fire. The living stand watch, dragons soar only in dreams, and two souls blaze eternal within the crystal core. Jon Snow and Daenerys Stormborn, united beyond death, warding the realms of men until stars grow old and skies forget what it was to weep frozen tears. And the world, for a time, knows dawn unmarred. Riverland's grasses bent beneath a new spring wind that smelled of peat smoke and thawing earth. Yet winter's memory lingered in every shadow. The banners of the United Realms, Direwolf, Rose, kraken, lion stripped of crown, fluttered together above the charred ramparts of Harrenhal, reminder that war and frost had welded former foes into wary kin. In the courtyard, stonemasons chipped melted slag from the castle's fused towers, while children chased each other with sticks tipped in dull obsidian, pretending at battles their parents prayed they would never know. Tyrion Lannister watched from a balcony whose balustrade had buckled under dragon flame months before. He leaned on an oak staff shod in iron, gift from Brienne after a splinter in his thigh refused to heal, and contemplated the ledger in his lap. Revenues trickled now from half-sown fields, and roads lay broken under collapsed bridges. Yet barter thrived. Grain for wool, charcoal for nails, promises pledged on parchment made from rushes when calfskin ran short. He closed the book with a sigh and descended the spiral to the council chamber where Robb Stark sat hunched over maps freckled with candle wax. "Your Grace," Tyrion said, letting formality smooth the weariness from his voice. "Trade routes from Gulltown reopen next fortnight. The Vale ships salted cod by the hold, and Lady Arya has personally sworn her wolfpack guard the mules through the mountains of the moon." Robb rubbed the stubble at his jawline. His eyes still bore the redness of fresh nights spent dreaming of gray wind, but they were clear. "The Vale's generosity is welcome," he answered, "so long as Lady Lisa does not attach strings." Tyrion shrugged one shoulder. "Her sisterly love for your late mother appears genuine. A miracle wrought by winter, perhaps." A sad smile tugged Robb's mouth. "Winter wrought many miracles, and many graves." He studied Tyrion. "How fares King's Landing?" "The city has accepted its new charter with a surprising lack of riots. Renly's steward distributes bread mixed with ground chickpeas and saffron. Apparently golden crumbs taste richer than plain brown. The small folk chant for Dawn's guardians every morning and carve twin flames above their doorways. Keeps morale warm." Tyrion's voice lowered. "But some ask when dragons will return. Rumor claims the sky will alight each year on the day Jon and Daenerys were lost." Robb's gaze drifted to the open lancet window, to pale clouds floating like smoke from vanished pyres. "Let the rumors live," he said softly. "A kingdom built on hope outweighs one built on fear." The door swung wide. Brienne of Tarth ducked beneath the lintel, helm tucked under her arm. "Scouts from Deepwood Mott arrived," she announced. "The Shining is sighted again." Tyrion straightened. "The Shining!" A shimmer above the Frostfangs, like sunrise at midnight. "No rider, only light. They say the wall hums louder when it glows." Robb exhaled through his nose. "The Guardians stir." He rose, pushing the map aside. "Prepare a small company. I would ride north to witness this myself." Tyrion lifted a brow. "You are king of 6 realms. Best not wander off chasing lights like a moth. I am also a Stark. The North answers to me, and the Wall is our first pledge. If Jon and Daenerys guard us still, I would stand beneath their watch and thank them." Brienne nodded. "I will ride at your side." "And I," Tyrion said, surprising himself. "My legs complain on horseback, but my wits travel light. Someone must chronicle what we see." Robb clasped his shoulder. "Then dusk 2 days hence. Provision lightly. Speed matters." Tyrion sighed. "I shall write my will tonight." Deep in the Citadel's torchlit archive, Samwell Tarly traced a quill across fresh parchment. His once plump cheeks had hollowed into earnest angles, and his hands bore ink stains permanent as birthmarks. Before him lay 3 scrolls wrapped in strips of sheepskin, the surviving accounts of the Dawn Age forging, each rescued from burnt libraries or white-raised monasteries. He copied every symbol thrice, cross-checking strokes, until the pattern emerged. A lattice of weirwood runes woven with Valyrian glyphs, resolving into a sigil of twin flames embraced by a circle of ice. Gilly entered with little Sam toddling at her skirts. "You've not slept?" she scolded, placing a bowl of broth beside his elbow. "Night after night you chase ghosts in ink." "These aren't ghosts," Sam murmured, eyes shining. "They're instructions." He unrolled a scrap of thin parchment, his own drawing of the wall's renewed grain. Ice blocks at dawn now revealed faint whirls just visible when sun struck at a shallow angle. He had sketched them carefully, an inverted mirror of the lattice. "See?" he whispered. Jon and Daenerys didn't only seal Winter's heart, they engraved the wall with a safeguard, a spell of renewal. But one line is incomplete. Gilly set little Sam on a stool. "Incomplete sounds dangerous. Or unfinished," Sam corrected. "Perhaps they left a key for us, should Winter's heart ever beat again." He tapped quill to lip. "I must send this to Bran." Gilly squeezed his shoulder. "After you eat. Guardians or no, you won't protect anyone on an empty belly." Sam smiled sheepishly and raised the spoon. Yet his thoughts raced ahead, of ravens winging north, of Bran's white eyes reading runes older than kings, and of a world that might one day need new guardians. Beyond the Broken Tooth Hills, Arya Stark led her wolf pack. Not children playing this time, but seasoned scouts clad in mottled leathers. 10 dire wolves ran with them, offspring of Nymeria's vast brood that roamed the riverlands. Their mission: root out the last frozen hollows where white nests might lurk. Though Winter's hold had broken, some corpses still twitched in deep shade, animated not by distant masters but by residual spell threads tangled in bone. On a moonless night, they came upon an abandoned sept, its stained glass windows shattered, pews strewn like skeletal ribs. The scent of death lingered. Arya signed silent commands. 2 wolves leapt the threshold first, curls of their breath fogging interior gloom. Nothing stirred. She slipped inside, needle poised. At the altar lay a single corpse, robed in septon white, hands clasped. Pale blue orbs stared at vaulted ceiling. Obsidian shards encircled the corpse's heart. Dragonglass daggers hammered point first into ribs. Whoever killed it had known how. Arya exhaled. She beckoned Nymeria's grandson, massive, moon-gray, who sniffed the body and sneezed. No chill remained. The white was inert. She turned to her second-in-command, a girl of Barrowton named Lisa Stone. "Pack the shards," Arya instructed. "Iron-born forgers melt them into arrowheads." "What of the bones?" "Burn them. Ghosts deserve rest." As flames licked the altar, Arya ascended the cracked nave. Starlight spilled through a broken rose window, and in that light she glimpsed an old image painted high above. 2 figures, man and woman, ascending amid wings of fire. 7 pointed stars circled them. The work must have been commissioned after the long night's end, by artisans eager to sanctify new legends within old faith. Arya felt a lump rise in her throat. She reached to touch the painted face of her brother. No, her cousin Jon, rendered fierce yet kind. Next to him, Daenerys smiled, hand uplifted. Arya whispered, "Watch over us," and turned back to her wolves. In the dungeons beneath Storm's End, Davos Seaworth held counsel with Shireen Baratheon, now Lady of the Stormlands. The girl had grown tall and stately despite her once frail health. The stag sigil sapphire upon her breast matched her clear eyes. "The Stepstones petition for grain," she said, unrolling a soldier's report. "Their soil went barren under frost. If we deny them, they may pledge fealty to Myr for bread." Davos rubbed his knuckles. "We're stretched thinner than a beggar's blanket, my lady. But drive them to Myr and we risk pirates raiding Reachmen's ships. Best we share seed and teach them our new hardy rye. It sprouts through snow." Shireen smiled. "You still think like a smuggler, always a trade behind generosity." Then her expression sobered. "Father would be proud." Davos bowed his head. "Your father died FO. Our duty, my lady. So must we all, in our own fashion." "True." She rolled the report. "Grant the grain, provide scribes to instruct the planting, and send them copies of Sam Tarley's treatise on winter-tolerant crops." Davos grinned. "Aye, my lady." The Onion Knight obeys. He strode to the courtyard where gulls circled gray sky and tasted salt on wind. Above the gate, banners of stag and direwolf twisted together, bound by pact rather than conquest. He wondered if Stannis, stubborn as the wind, would have accepted such union. Yet flame and ice had remade the world in one bright flash. Grudges fell like snow from a warmed roof. With a final glance toward the horizon, Davos set about feeding the hungry. When Bran's raven arrived at Castle Black, Dolorous Ed nearly dropped his bowl of stew. The bird's wings glimmered with residual frost, and its beak clutched a strand of red weirwood fiber. "Another riddle from the Tree King," he muttered, carrying it to Maester Mally, a dour woman from the Reach who replaced Eamon's line. They unfurled Bran's note. Shining sky signals opening. Roots hum with strength. Send Sword of the Dawn to meet the king in the north at the Ice Spring. Mally frowned. Sword of the Dawn? Ser Edric Dane rides with Robb already. Ed scratched stubble. Then Bran's ahead of us. He glanced out at the night-lit ice. Faint pearly gleam pulsed along the wall's crest. Tell Lord Stark we march to the Ice Spring, wherever the Seven Hells that is. 3 days' ride north of Queen's Crown. Robb's company reached a valley cupped between hills shaped like sleeping giants. Snow lingered only in hollows, and moss gleamed emerald against black granite. At dusk the air took on an odd shimmer, thin motes dancing like dust in sunlight though none shone. Tyrion logged every detail in a travel journal bound with wolf fur. Brienne rode point, her blue cloak flapping like some knightly banner from forgotten legend. She reined up at the valley's center where water gurgled from a crack in obsidian bedrock, warm enough to smoke in the chill. The Ice Spring, she guessed. Robb dismounted. Steam curled around his boots. Feels like a hearth. He knelt, cupped water. It tasted of copper and pine sap. Earth warms here. Or something beneath, Tyrion said, stepping gingerly. I have seen dragonglass veins near Dragonstone seeping warmth. Yet we stand leagues from any fire mount. Night gathered. They pitched camp by the spring under a moon that seemed brighter than usual, rimmed in faint rainbows. Wolves howled on distant ridges. Their echoes returned multiplied, as if chorus answered chorus. Robb stood sentinel as his men slept, gray wind's collar hanging from his belt like a memory made iron. Midnight struck, and the earth vibrated with deep resonance. Thud, thud. Robb's heart raced. He placed palm to ground. The beat matched the vibrations. A figure approached from the trees. A young man in ringmail, cloak of starry black. As torches flared, Robb recognized Edric Dane, Sword of the Morning, dawn's pale blade across his back. Edric bowed. Lord Stark, the watch rides. Maester Mally carried Bran's message. Behind him rode a score of black brothers, banners dipped. Their faces bore awe rather than fatigue. Robb clasped Edric's forearm. You felt it too. Edric nodded. The wall pulses stronger each night, as though it breathes. Just then a column of light speared skyward from the Frostfangs, a lance of gold and blood red twisting together. Cloud banks burst in silent bloom, and the pulse beneath their boots quickened. Tyrion scrambled up a boulder, eyes wide. If that isn't our guardians, I'll shave my beard. Brienne's voice, hushed. Look! Above the spring the air rippled. 2 arcs of translucent fire coalesced into forms. Human height, indistinct at first, then resolving. A man and a woman clad in flickering robes of dawnlight. Their features blurred at edges like reflections on water, yet Robb saw the tilt of Jon's jaw, the curve of Daenerys's brow. They hovered inches above the ground. Twin flames joined at the palms. No one spoke. All knelt involuntarily. The figure's lips moved, yet sound entered minds rather than air. Watch well. The cycle sleeps, not ends. Carve unity into law, else night returns swifter than thought. Guard the children of the forest, for they guard you. And when the stars fade, seek the song beneath the roots. Their gaze fell upon Robb. Pride and sorrow warred in those fire eyes. Brother, their voices sang. Led them kindly. Upon Tyrion, chronicler, let truth outlive tongues. Upon Brienne, shield-bearer, teach honor after steel is set aside. Upon Edric Dane, blade of morning, keep dawn unbroken. Then light flared. A wave of warmth roared outward, and the apparition vanished. In its wake remained only fresh grass, emerald shoots unfurling where frost had lingered minutes before. Rob rose trembling. "They live," he whispered, "in flame and in us." The men cheered softly, tears glimmering on cheeks. Tyrion jotted frantic lines while muttering motives for posterity. Brienne bowed head, oath unspoken but etched in bone. Edric unsheathed dawn, the blade shining like newborn sun. Rob knelt, pressed palm to new grass. "I swear," he said, voice barely above wind. "The realms of men will not forget this charge. The wheel stays broken." He stood, lifted voice so all heard. "Tomorrow we carve the first stones of the Guardian Covenant. Winterfell shall host moots each year. Lords and small folk alike will shape law. No king above another, no realm beneath. We will guard the wall, guard each other, guard the memory." Cheers rose, raw, earnest. Wolves on ridges howled agreement. Tyrion closed his book gently. "I never thought I'd see a man promise politics to ghosts. Yet here we are." Rob laughed, a sound bright as the aurora overhead. "Not ghosts, watchers, and watchers need stories." He clapped Tyrion's shoulder. "Write them." Tyrion inclined his head. "With pleasure, my king, though I fear the truth will sound madder than any myth." "Then let madness guide hearts," Rob replied, "if it keeps them loyal." South in Old Town, Sam hung a fresh parchment on the Citadel's Hall of Bells. Scholars gathered at first light, murmuring at the title, Theory of the Root Song. Archmaester Belder, ivory mask of mathematics, tapped Sam's diagram. "You claim the wall's new sigils resonate in harmonic frequencies identical to the children's crystal harps?" Sam nodded, glasses sliding down his nose. "If we craft a harp tuned to that scale and play it at the wall, we may commune directly with the Guardian's essence. Perhaps learn to mend smaller breaches without their sacrifice." Belder harumphed. "Wild speculation." "Perhaps," Sam allowed, "but speculation once saved the world." He gestured to the chamber's stained glass windows, which depicted twin flames now in fashion across Westeros. "Let me test. A single harp carved from weirwood will suffice." "You propose felling a living godswood?" "Only a fallen limb," Sam said quickly. "No trees need die." Belder stroked his beard. "Very well. Old Town funds your folly. May the Seven pardon wasted coin."
Sam smiled, bowing.
He would need Gilly's steady knife and Little Sam's keen ear. They would test at the wall come summer's solstice, when the night sky blazed shortest and music carried farthest. In the Dothraki Sea, grasslands at last free from frost quivered under hooves. A Khalasar road led by Rakharo, once sworn to the silver-haired Khaleesi. He bore her three-headed dragon banner now, crimson on black. At his side galloped Missandei of Noth, whose soft words tempered warriors' cruelty. They halted atop a rise overlooking a fledgling settlement. Stone houses, irrigation trenches, goats enclosed in reed pens. Former slaves worked fields blooming with barley imported from Westeros. Rakharo raised his arak. "The mother of dragons gave freedom," he shouted in the common tongue they'd adopted. "We honor her by planting, not pillaging." The riders cheered, though some eyed the town hungrily. Missandei addressed those doubters. "Dawn's guardians watch. They crossed sky itself to shield the weak. Will you spit on their gift?" The doubters lowered eyes. Rakharo smiled at Missandei. "Your tongue wields sharper steel than any blade." She inclined her head. "Words built as many empires as swords." They rode down to help dig the next irrigation ditch, sweat glistening under a forgiving sun. Seasons slipped. Flowers rooted in soil once frozen 2 cubits deep. Summer's heat returned gentler, tempered by memory of cold. Markets revived. Artisans plied new crafts. Glass etched with twin flames sold quicker than wine. Wandering septons preached humility, while singers composed ballads of the flame-bound lovers. Children played Guard the Wall, building snow barricades even in summer by freezing water with dragonglass dust. An old trick Sam discovered. Yet under joy lurked vigilance. Each equinox the Guardian Covenant convened at Winterfell. Lords, ladies, maesters, and small folk delegates filled the newly raised round hall. Circle without dais, symbol that no seat sat higher. Robb presided only to keep order. Votes ruled by shouting aye, nay. Tyrion recorded minutes, his pen racing. In the third year, House Greyjoy petitioned for more timber than allotted. The moot debated 2 full days until a compromise exchanged driftwood rights for shared cod fisheries. In the 5th year, archers from Dorne demonstrated a dragonglass-tipped arrow alloyed with iron that pierced oak at 50 paces. They offered the design free, asking only a forge to be built in Sunspear. The motion carried unanimous applause. When disputes heated, Brienne's mere presence sufficed to cool tempers. Her blue armor, polished bright, reminded all of the shield-bearer charge bestowed by the Guardians. Rumor claimed her sword Oathkeeper glowed faintly near treachery. Unproven, yet no delegate wished to test. Edric Dane trained a new order, the Dawn Guard, sworn not to any lord but to Dawn itself. They patrolled the wall on rotating tours, blades of mithril tin alloy, lighter than steel, able to hold dragonglass edges. Their cloaks shimmered pale lavender, and children hailed them moon knights. On the summer solstice of Year 7, Samwell Tarly arrived at the wall with his harp. Bran, now called Greenseer King in the north, guided him to a parapet directly above Jon and Daenerys' sealing sigil. Bran's wheeled chair rattled over ice but left no furrow, some unseen agency easing his way. Sam plucked the harp, a simple arched frame, strings spun of silvery gut. The first note hummed low, ice vibrated, a faint glow rippled outward. Sam adjusted tuning, struck a chord. This time the wall rang in harmony, a deep resonant drone felt in bone more than ear. Snow along the crest shivered into powder, cascading like petals. Bran closed his eyes. Through Warg's sight he saw energy coil along the wall as vines of light, merging into a spiral that descended beneath earth toward the heart crystal. Within that core Jon and Daenerys stirred. No faces now, but currents of white gold interlaced. They sensed the song, responded with soft pulse. Bran opened his eyes. "They hear," he whispered, tears gleaming. "They are well." Sam plucked higher notes. Melody rose like dawnbirds. The ice lit greater, sigils shining crisp. Watch brothers gasped. Suddenly the sky crackled. A beam of aurora folded downward, touched the wall, danced along its length before shooting north. The watchers shielded eyes as colors swam in curtains. When light faded, the wall's topmost fissures, hairline cracks never sealed, had closed completely. Sam's knees buckled. He breathed ragged. "It works." Bran smiled, serene. "Their gift, carried by your hands." Brothers knelt, some weeping. Ed muttered, "Bloody hell, now we've a singing wall." I preferred silence, but a grin tugged his lips. News of the harp song spread across continents, carried by ravens and merchant tongues. In ET, sages debated whether West was now cradle of spiritual harmony. In Volantis, red priests proclaimed Azor Ahai fulfilled twice over. And in Valyria's smoking ruins, explorers claimed to see twin lights flicker at night, as if the Guardians' reach circled globe. Yet humbler tales mattered more. An orphan girl in Gulltown learned to carve dragonglass flutes. Her lullaby stilled storms for fishermen. A stonemason in Sunspear inlaid red glass into rooftops, capturing midsummer sun to warm houses in winter. A maester discovered frost-resistant bees that thrived in cold, ensuring honey year-round. These small mercies wove a tapestry of resilience. Still, watchfulness persisted. Under blackest new moons, Dawn Guard scouts reported skittering shapes in caverns far north, remnants of ice spider broods now lacking a queen. They burned nests when they found them. No new king of night arose, but vigilance became ritual. The vigil ride, undertaken each decade when the twin flames peaked brightest. 2 riders, 1 Dawn Guard, 1 shield bearer, carried a torch from the wall to the sea and back, symbol that light encircles the realm. In the 10th year, Arya led the vigil ride with Brienne. As they galloped past villages, crowds lined the roads, holding candles. Wargwolves trotted behind. Children tossed flower petals dried crimson and white. At the halfway mark near the ruined twins, Arya halted by the river's edge where once she had tasted vengeance. She dipped the torch to ignite floating lanterns shaped as wolf and dragon. Brienne followed, launching lanterns shaped as shield and sunrise. The river glowed, carrying effigies to sea. That night Arya dreamed of a vast plain under alien stars. Jon and Daenerys stood upon a hillside, cloaked in rippling white fire. They spoke without words. North is safe, south is safe, but across the sunset sea, a darkness older than frost stirs. One day the realm may need guardians again. Arya reached toward them, but they dissolved into sparks that drifted upward, joining unfamiliar constellations. She woke before dawn, heart steady. The torch still blazed, though wind should have quenched it. She whispered thanks and led Brienne back toward the wall. Upon return, Bran listened to her dream, expression calm. "Horizons expand," he said. "Let us build ships." So the Guardian Covenant allocated timber for a great navy, not of war but exploration. Tyrion oversaw hull designs with ironwood ribs and sails woven of spider silk from the Summer Isles. Sam consulted maps rumored to predate the Doom. Arya volunteered to lead the first voyage, her wolf pack to prowl decks, dawn sharp in their eyes. On the day the lead ship slipped from port, a sleek three-masted vessel christened Twin Flame, crowds filled every clifftop, singing ballads that blended Valyrian and the Old Tongue. Ricaro's calls, Davos's sailors, Dorne's archers, Tyrion's scribes, and a handful of children of the forest, their eyes liquid gold, all stood shoulder to shoulder. As the mooring rope splashed, the wall's song thrummed faintly even this far south. Clouds parted, revealing twin arcs of aurora coiling upwards like dragons chasing sunrise. The sea mirrored the light, and sails billowed with wind warm as midsummer. Robb Stark, now older, scar-streaking cheek, raised his hand in farewell. "Carry dawn forward," he called. Arya at the bow grinned. "And bring dusk no longer." The ship angled west. Lanterns bobbed behind, then grew small as stars. The people watched until horizon claimed the last scrap of sail, until even the song of the wall faded to memory. Night fell gentle. Constellations gleamed. 2 new stars pulsed close beside the sword-shaped father's crown. One white gold, one pale silver. Brighter each year, say old shepherds. When children ask who they are, grandmothers smile. "Those are the guardians," they say. They watch the edge of the world so shadows never return. And the children sleep easier, knowing that somewhere beyond sight twin hearts of fire beat eternal, guiding ships, stirring harp song in ice, and whispering in dreams. Live, love, guard one another. For light is brightest when carried by many hands. The prow of the Twin Flame cleft a steel blue sea that breathed mist in the chill dawn. Rigging creaked, gulls circled, and beneath the rhythmic slap of hull against swell thrummed the faintest counterbeat. A pulse of warmth that seemed to follow the ship westward, as though the distant wall still murmured encouragement across half a world. Arya Stark stood barefoot on damp planks, hands clasped behind her back, face to the wind. Salt tangled her hair, and Nymerian, the gray-muzzled descendant of Nymeria, paced at her heel, claws clicking. Along the weather deck mariners from half the realm's coiled ropes, checked barrels, sharpened dragonglass harpoons kept for rumor more than need. A Dawn Guard knight named Ser Ares Rowan polished the moon-hued edge of his alloy blade, humming the lullaby Sam Tarly had coaxed from the wall's song. Near the mizzen sat Dalla Moss, a girl of the free folk tasked with keeping the journal Tyrion insisted accompany every voyage. Ink and parchment fluttered in a brisk cross breeze. She shaded her page and wrote, "Third moon of voyage, no sight of land, dreamed of green fire beneath black waves, woke to wolves howling below decks, echo only, wolves calm, all well." From the forecastle hatch emerged Lauren Pines, Stormlander pilot. He raised a speaking trumpet to Arya. "Soundings grow shallow, milady. We cross a ridge of seamounts unseen on old maps. Water brightens, see?" Arya followed his pointing arm. Far ahead the sea changed tint, deep cobalt giving way to turquoise that glowed from within. Sunlight filtered through, revealing pillars of pale stone rising from the abyss like giants' teeth. Currents hissed over them, and spray flashed prism colors. "Steer wider," Arya ordered. "A reef like that could gut us." Lauren relayed commands. The twin flame heeled to starboard, sails drawing taut. Wind carried the scent of flowering meadows, impossible so far from land. Arya closed her eyes. On the edge of hearing came laughter, children splashing in summer pools. When she opened them, the pillars were behind, but fragrance lingered. Nymerian bristled, low growl vibrating. Arya knelt, scratching the wolf's ruff. "What did you smell, old friend?" Ares Rowan approached, blade sheathed. "Dragons," he said softly. "My grandsire swore they left a spice-sweet trail." "No dragons this side of sunset," Arya replied, yet gooseflesh prickled her arms. She glanced skyward. Clouds drifted white and harmless. Still, she ordered extra lookouts posted aloft. Night claimed the sea with velvet haste. Stars unfamiliar burned bright. The crew doused deck lamps to preserve darksight, save the guardian lantern at the prow, an octagonal crystal forged in Old Town, filled with Walsong fire. Its twin flames shimmered violet and gold, illuminating a path 10 ship lengths ahead. Arya lay in her cabin hammock but did not sleep. The guardian lantern's glow filtered through her shutter, flickering across ceiling beams. She dreamt waking, standing atop a narrow bridge of ice beneath foreign constellations. Ahead loomed a gate of black basalt veined with pulsing scarlet. From within issued a chorus, thousands of voices singing the harp motif Sam discovered, yet skewed minor, mournful. As she listened, the gate opened. A figure stepped out, shadow crowned with antlers of pale flame, eyes empty voids. It raised a hand, and the song warped, harmonies sliding off key into gravelly chord that scoured ear and heart.
Nymerion's Haulku.
Tea through. Arya lurched awake, sweat cold, heart thundering. Deck bells clanged. The cry of light off starboard. She raced topside. Crew clustered at rail, staring into blackness. Out there, perhaps 500 yards distant, glimmered a beacon, red-white, pulsing slow. It floated above the waves, motionless, reflection trembling on the chop. "Another reef marker?" Ser Ares asked. "No reef glows," Arya said, grabbing a spyglass. Through the lens she saw 2 orbs entwined, mirror of the Guardian sigil. But these flickered with faint edges of shadow that gnawed their radiance like moths at silk. Dalla Moss appeared clutching the journal. "Should we record coordinates?" Arya lowered the glass.
No.
"We heave to, maintain distance. Row out a skiff with 3 oarsmen, no closer than bowshot." The skiff splashed away. On board, Dawn Guard rowers stroked steady as the pilot held tiller. When they reached the halfway mark, the beacon brightened, casting ripples of ruby across water. The oarsman paused, awestruck. Then, without sound, the beacon winked out. Darkness swallowed it. Where it had glowed remained only a swirl of blacker sea. At that same instant, wind died. The twin flame sails sagged. Crew whispered prayers. From the void rose a keening note, high metallic, like steel dragged over slate. Nymerian snarled. Whitecaps frothed around the skiff, spinning it. Rowers fought to keep balance, yet current gripped them. Arya barked, "Heave line!" Coils of rope sailed. The skiff caught one, but tension snapped as though tugged by Leviathan. Boat and men vanished into gloom. A horrible crunch echoed, wood shattered. Screams muffled. Slick crimson spread across starlit surface. Deck erupted in chaos. Some sailors scrambled for bows. Others froze. Ser Ares drew his dawn blade. Its pale glow dimmed, as if smothered. From port quarter erupted a shape, water sluicing off chitinous hide, taller than masts, limbs jointed wrong. It resembled a colossal crab, but where mouth should be spread a ring of serrated petals, each tipped with a cold blue ember. Inside that ring glimmered twin fiery orbs, the corrupted mirror of guardian light. "Loose!" Arya shouted. Arrows hissed. Dragonglass tips shattered on carapace. The creature's frontal limbs snapped rigging lines, sending spars crashing. Crew flung axes that clanged futile. Arya sprinted across tilted deck, Nymerian at her side. She seized a coil of wildfire rope, standard cargo after Night King's lessons. Brienne's formula ensured it would ignite even in driving rain. Arya looped one end around a harpoon, jammed shaft into a swivel gun, lit the fuse. Green flame raced. She aimed for the thing's eye-like orbs. Ser Ares steadied the gun, nodding. Arya yanked the release. Harpoon soared, trailing emerald fire. It struck true, burying deep into the glowing socket. Flame flared outward, hissing along fissures. The creature emitted the same slate-shearing screech, limbs spasming. Green fire spread, crackling across shell. Cracks appeared, leaking viscous ichor that steamed on deck. Yet the monster did not retreat. Instead, it slammed a claw onto the quarterdeck, hauling itself higher. A mast toppled. Spray of splinters drove sailors back. Arya dashed beneath arching limbs, needle in hand, searching for joints. She ducked a swipe that split cargo crate like cheese. Ser Ares sliced another limb. Dawnblade sheared chitin but stuck halfway, seized by contracting tendons. The knight released the hilt lest he be hauled overboard. Arya spied a fissure where wildfire still burned. She leapt, buried needle to the crossguard into soft tissue. The creature convulsed. Nymerian seized its other limb, tearing sinew. "Pull!" Arya shouted. Deckhands hauled on remaining rigging. The creature's weight shifted. Wildfire reached some inner reservoir. Eruption of green fury burst through seams. The beast staggered, edging toward rail. Two more harpoons punched its flank, tethered to capstan. Crew winched. With a final grind, the monster toppled into sea, dragging tangle of smashed spars. A spreading whirlpool of emerald-lit foam swallowed the carcass. Silence returned, broken only by the groans of injured and crackle of petty fires burning out. Wind resumed in gentle sigh. Sails refilled. Crew collapsed, some sobbing. Arya stood panting, splattered in black-blue ichor, needle dripping.
Dalla pale approached Journal Forgotten.
What was that? Arya sheathed needle. Something born of corrupted flame. She wiped brow. And a warning. She ordered watches doubled, sails reefed, course adjusted south to skirt creature's waters. For 4 days they saw nothing but spindrift and distant lightning. Repair crews raised jury-rig masts, patched sails with hide. Ser Ares retrieved his Dawnblade, edge dulled but intact. Wildfire stains glowed faint along its groove. He left them a badge of survival. On fifth sunrise lookouts cried, "Land!" A sliver of dark coast lay ahead, cliffs scoured by wind, capped with forest whose leaves gleamed silver blue under morning sun. Between the trees flowed waterfalls that plunged straight into sea, sending constant rainbows skyward. Lauren pines guided the twin flame into a natural harbor sheltered by curved basalt arms. White sand gleamed beyond. Arya assembled shore party. Herself, Ser Ares, Dalla, 2 Dawn guards, and Nymerian. They rowed ashore, waves gentle as sighs. Stepping onto sand, Arya felt warmth rise through soles, heat like sun-baked stone, though day remained cool. She knelt, touched earth. Beneath a thin crust, crystals shimmered, faint jam of violet and gold identical to guardian fire. Ares' Rowan sank blade point into sand. "It sings," he murmured. He pressed ear to hilt. A hum vibrated.
Dalla scribbled furiously.
Nymerian trotted upshore, sniffing curious tide pools. Small crabs scuttled, carapaces translucent, each bearing a tiny flame at heart. These parted for the dire wolf, unafraid. Beyond the beach the forest awaited, trunks slender, leaves edged with luminescent veins. When breeze stirred, the foliage emitted soft chime, as though branch tips struck glass. The party advanced. Sand gave way to moss that glowed faint underfoot. Water trickled in channels lined by white pebbles squared like masonry. Suddenly Nymerian froze, hackles high. A shadow detached from tree ahead. Graceful figure shorter than Arya. Skin bark brown dappled with silver, eyes liquid gold. a child of the forest. Two more emerged, bearing spears tipped with black crystal. The first raised hand in greeting rather than threat. Arya bowed slight. "I am Arya of House Stark, blood of the North." She tapped chest over heart. "Friend," the child answered in high old tongue. Musical words Arya barely understood. Yet the gist clear: "Welcome, guardian's kin." We waited. Another spoke common with thick accent. Flame Watchers told us travelers would come, bearing wolf heart, moon blade, song scribe. Golden eyes flicked to Dalla's quill, to Ser Ares' sword, to Nymerian. Arya sheathed blade. "We seek to learn if darkness stirs beyond sunset. Something attacked us at sea. Creature warped by shadow." The child nodded, expression solemn. "Echo of the sundered flame. Long ago, when your guardians sealed winter's heart, fragments fled. Some slipped beneath world skin, hungering. They cannot breach Wall's song, so they wait in deep water. Your light awakened them. Can they be destroyed?" Ser Ares asked. "Fire cleanses," said the first child. "But root melody must cradle flame, else corruption spreads." She gestured inland. "Come to Crystal Grove." We weave answer. Arya's party followed winding paths lit by bioluminescent flowers. Birds with opal feathers darted overhead, singing chords echoing Sam's harp. They arrived at clearing encircled by towering crystals. The same violet gold lattice glimpsed in sand, now grown into pillars 15 feet high, forming a silent choir. At center lay pool as still as polished obsidian. Children formed ring. One placed a small harp carved of shell in Arya's hands. "Play Wall's song." Her throat tightened. "I am no musician." "Heart knows tune," the child said, pressing fingers to Arya's sternum. Warmth spread. Memory stirred. Jon's laugh, Bran's dreams, Sansa's lullabies, Ned's soft whistle when saddling horses. Arya plucked a tentative string. Note pure and sad rang clear. The crystals resonated. Pool shimmered. She played another, found rhythm. Soon chords wove into melody. The same Sam had coaxed but brighter, quickened. With each phrase the crystal pillars pulsed, sending ripples of light upward that converged into sphere overhead. Inside sphere took shape a map. Oceans swirling, continents unfamiliar, pockets of shadow swirling west and south. One shadow smoldered where the reef monster struck. Others huddled deeper seas. Far to southwest a large void writhed, tendrils stretching. The child indicated it. Heart of sundered flame, broken by guardian spark, now seeks to gather shards, grow mind. Arya ceased playing. Map dimmed. How do we stop it? Flame forged ice once. Now ice flame must forge song anew. Need 3. Wolf to carry melody. Dawn to cut shadow. Root to bind. She touched Arya, Ares, Dalla. Dalla startled. "I am no fighter." "Song stronger than steel," the child said. She reached into pool, withdrew bead of crystal glowing soft. "Take seed. Sing upon it each dusk. Let memory infuse. When seed blooms, cast into heart void. Dawn blade will guide path. Wolf will guard." Ser Ares knelt as if knighted. Arya accepted bead. It hummed warm. Nymerian sniffed, ears flicking. The children bowed. Return swift. Void gathers storms. They trekked back to beach with minds heavy. Crew gaped at bead, at tale retold. Repairs finished, sails raised. Lauren prayed to storms not to hinder them. Every dusk hence, Dalla sat beneath guardian lantern and sang. Sometimes old northern rhymes, sometimes Braavosi love airs. Seed glowed brighter nightly. Arya harmonized with Sam's harp notation etched on deck board. Ser Ares stood watch, blade across knees, whispering morning creeds of dawn guard. Weeks passed. Storms followed but never wrecked. One night the seed burst open, petals of crystal unfurling like miniature aurora. Inside throbbed core of living light, neither flame nor frost, but both. The horizon ahead blackened, not cloud, but void sapping starlight. Seam between sky and sea blotted, rippled outward. Crew mustered, eyes huge. Arya drew the root seed from silk pouch, placed it at prow beneath lantern. Ser Ares unsheathed dawn blade, its edge brightened to match seed. Dalla raised voice in chant, melody fortified by strings plucked by Arya. As song rose, lantern flared, seed answered. The void recoiled, surface writhing. From depths, shapes emerged, more chitinous leviathans, eyes alight with corrupted flame. They raced toward hull, water hissing. Ares leapt to bowsprit, sword blazing. Each slash loosed arcs of pale embers that seared monsters, carving smoking gouges. Arrows hissed, bells rang, wildfire pots hurled. Yet beasts kept coming, driven by hive will. The void's center billowed upward, tower of water crowned with maw of swirling shadow. Within churned shards of light, fragmented guardian echoes stolen by corruption. It roared, a discordant clash. Arya tugged lines, angling sails. Lauren steered straight into maw. Hold course. Crew paled but obeyed. Twin flame raced, bow-cutting foam. At final moment Arya seized seed, kissed its surface. Memory flooded. Jon's hand ruffling her hair, Daenerys' dragon wheeling above battlefield. Winter roses blooming after long night. She hurled seed into darkness. In silence seed pierced maw. The world paused. Wind died, waves froze mid-crest. Then silence shattered. A column of white gold erupted, spiraling sky. Beasts writhed, screaming, shells igniting. Shards of corrupted flame recoalesced around seed, melting into harmony. Void shrank, folding upon self. With thunderclap it imploded, spray blasting hull. Yet windproofing spells held. Sea stilled. Monsters' corpses drifted, exoskeletons cracking into harmless ash that dissolved. Stars returned, brighter. Atop mast the guardian lantern's light burned steady, joined by new glimmer low on horizon. Tiny dawn where none should be. A cheer rose, wearied, stunned, jubilant. Arya slumped against rail, tears saltier than sea. Ser Ares knelt, sword point drained of glow but whole. Dalla wrote one line, void healed. Song endured. Voyage home proved gentle. Wind fair, fish plentiful. Crabs on deck now bore golden hearts, not blue. Crew harvested a few as study specimens, releasing remainder. Upon return to Westeros after 12 moons, Twin Flame found harbors festooned with ribbons. News of their beacon seen across sky arrived weeks before them. Robb Stark greeted sister with embrace fierce as storm. Tyrion's eyes shone behind parchment spectacles as he recorded every word. Sam Tarly arrived to compare Seedsong to Wall's melody. He declared resonance perfect, corruption gone. Children of the forest who had settled in northern glens danced under moon, leaves rustling approval. At the next Guardian Moot, Arya, Ser Ares, and Dalla presented crystal seeds' empty shell, now a delicate bloom fused into star-shaped sigil. They recounted island of singing trees, victory over sundered flame. Delegates voted to extend exploration west, but always paired with songkeepers and dawn guard. The world, it seemed, was larger and kinder than fear once taught. Years rolled. Arya captained successive expeditions, charting archipelagos where fish flew through air, deserts of glittering glass, mountain ranges of humming stone. Each voyage discovered echoes of twin flame, springs of guardian crystal, root songs seeded by Jon and Daenerys across distant leas. Evidently, when their souls fused to Wall, they also cast filaments through realms' bones, ensuring darkness could never gather unchecked. Back in Winterfell, Bran guided networks of watchtowers tuning Sam's harp notes each solstice, strengthening global weave. Brienne, aged yet unbowed, taught Squire generation's shield-bearer creed. Strength for the weak first, then self, sword's last resort. Tyrion compiled the Chronicle of Dawn, 40 volumes detailing transformation from fractured kingdoms to harmony. When he died peacefully at 72, a festival of lanterns lit every river all night, pages of his chronicle recited in taverns and courts alike. Robb Stark ruled long, married Lady Asha of House Tallheart, produced sons and daughters. Late in life, he visited the Frostfang Crystal Grove, where children of forest raised a stone cairn shaped as direwolf head. He laid Grey Wind's iron collar there, whispering thanks. He died a month later, smile serene. Some claim his spirit transformed into White Wolf seen wandering grove at dawns. 100 years after long night's end, a final sign arrived. Skyflowers, massive auroras, bloomed worldwide, swirling red and silver. Even in warm Esso's night lit bright as dawn. At wall, harp resonance peaked. Ice glowed transparent, revealing silhouettes of two figures within heart crystal. Hands clasped, heads bowed together. Watch brothers heard laughter like wind chimes. On that night children everywhere dreamed the same dream. Standing in a garden of snow and flame where a man with dark curls taught them sword dance, and a woman with silver hair told stories of dragons who loved the moon. They awoke joyous, hearts brave. Parents found them singing melody none had taught, harmonies echoing Sam's harp. The Guardian Covenant convened specially, resolved that the world would mark a new calendar. Year of Dawn, counting from that first sunrise when Jon and Daenerys sealed winter. Schools taught banner of twin flame, not as sigil of crown but emblem of unity. Proof that sacrifice and love outshine any throne. And still, far offshore, explorers sail under lanterns lit with wall song bright. They pass western horizon, guided by invisible threads, confident that should shadow rise, guardians will answer through hands of living. Their diaries end with simple refrain carried into ever-widening dark. Light is brightest when carried by many hearts. Soft sleet fell across the recarved direwolf of Winterfell's new watchtower, each flake melting as it touched the stone. For the tower's heartstone core still pulsed with a warmth brought from the singing crystals of the far western isle. 108 winters had passed since the Night King's fall, and the realm yet measured its seasons by two names, before dawn, after dawn. Yet every generation, that had been born to sunrises unmarred by corpse fire or hunger, still felt a hush descend whenever the twin auroras shimmered northward, reminder that light owed its peace to a sacrifice none living could fully grasp. On the 6th day of the Lithe Feast in year 108 AD, Bran Stark, called the Farseer these past decades, summoned a conclave to the Round Hall. His hair had gone moon-pale and his limbs wasted to parchment, but the eyes in his translucent face held the calm of deep forest pools. With steel wheel chair rasping on the polished ice mosaic floor, he addressed the circle of lords, small folk delegates, and children of the forest speakers who traveled openly now in the north. Brother Robb's eldest granddaughter sails for the Thousand Isles tomorrow, Bran said, voice thin yet carrying. Yet last night the root song warned of disharmony along the sea threads. A new discord ripples from the sunset horizon. The song begs answer. Samwell Tarly's third son, Maester Septon, chain gleaming with links of obsidian and crystal, frowned. Is it the sundered flame's remnants? A colder note, Bran replied. No longer flame corrupted, but hunger born of soundless void. It drinks melody. Left unchecked, it will gnaw the root threads that bind dawn's harmony. I have bent my sight beyond the pillars of twilight, and there I spy a sea wherein stars drown like embers in tar. A murmur spread. Arya Stark had died peacefully 20 summers past, Ser Ares Rowan before her. Now their pupils bore their mantles. Among them sat Lisa Stone Rowan, captain of the rebuilt Twin Flame. Beside her, the Dawnguard commander, Orain Dane, whose dawn blade flickered faint rose in torchlight. Both inclined heads at Bran's unspoken command. We sail again, Lisa said. 1 month later, the harbor at Tor Marzal, westernmost city founded on a shelf of living crystal, buzzed with lathers of gull song and blacksmith clang. The Twin Flame too waited, hull plated in alloy of ironwood and star steel. Its keel had tasted 3 oceans and survived. On its decks, drummers tapped out the heartbeat code Sam had devised to keep wall song resonant in distant seas. The code pulsed down masts anchored by harps of silver gut. Rigging hummed like low wind in a cathedral. Lisa Stone Rowan paced the quarterdeck, skin leathery from years of salt, eyes bright as fresh snow. Her first mate, a jovial summer islander called Quenby Ruro, adjusted a sextant carved from dawn-glass. Charts hold till horizon, Quenby reported. But after the pillars, maps go quiet. All weave our tales from gulls too tired to finish their flight. Then we write new lines, Lisa said, and turned to greet Commander Orain. The Dane's armor had been etched with fresh runes after wallsmiths discovered patterns that kept steel singing. He wore no helm, letting pale hair lift in brine air. At his hip slept a dawn blade rechristened morning's memory, the same blade Ares once tempered with wildfire and beast blood. While stevedores loaded casks of amber rootmead and crates of dragonglass charge bolts, a procession wound onto pier. Green and gold children of the forest, brandishing crystal flutes. Samwell Tarley's granddaughter, Maester Ellen, bearer of the new root seed. And, to collective wonder, Bran Stark himself, strapped into a wheeled palanquin carried by 2 silent giants of the Skagos clans. His presence meant the gravity of prophecy. Bran's thin lips curved as sails unfurled. "Carry me only as far as Sunmelt Isle," he told the giants. "Then I drift among roots." Ellen knelt before him, presenting the root seed, now bigger than a dove's egg, petals prismatic, thrumming in his palm. Bran whispered so only she heard, "If harmony fails, crack it upon your own heart. Let your final breath be the chord restored." Tears glimmered in Ellen's lashes, but she nodded. When the clang of docking pins rang out and lines splashed free, a hush stole the harbor. Twin auroras flared midday, a sign. The twin flame too slid past breakwater, ushered west by gulls and by hope. Weeks unspooled like thread from a spindle. At first the voyage felt familiar. Emerald crabs in scuttling constellations, dolphins singing root song variations, nights shot with silver meteors. But on the 22nd dusk, the harps hushed mid-note. Rigging deadened. Water stilled though wind pressed full on sails, as if the sea had forgotten how to wave. Quenby Ruro, speaking trumpet raised, called depths. No reading. Sounding line sinks on nothing. His chalked slate stood blank, as though the lead weight vanished into endless night. Above, stars dimmed one by one until only black remained. No clouds, no fog. The sky itself swallowed. Crew whispered of mythic devourers. Commander Orain arrayed Dawn Guard along rails, dawn blades drawing faint violet in gloom. Lisa ordered lanterns. The twin flame beacon flared, but its normal 3-man height cone of light shrank to arm's length, arrested by invisible power. Within that truncated glow bobbed motes of faint ash curling inward, as if cosmos inhaled. From stern lookout came a wail. Aft, shapes. Rowers pivoted searchlamps. They revealed silhouettes tall as towers gliding across water without wake. Null beasts born of darkness. They bore no chitin like the sundered flame spawn. Instead, their bodies were distortions, empty cavities bending lantern rays into broken prisms. Where they touched, deck planks turned gray and brittle. Bolts of dragonglass launched with twang of hawk ballistas, but on contact each projectile dissolved to dust. One null beast raised a limb like inverted smoke. Ellen heard a faint chord crumble inside her skull, little melody shards scattering. She cried out, clutching ears as blood trickled. Knowing steel and glass useless, Lisa dashed to midship harp rack. She seized the broad-bodied captain's harp carved from guardian crystal. Fumbling, she struck a wall-song chord badly, uncertain. The beast paused. Grayscale limb flickered. Commander Orain gleamed intent. He shouted to the 3 forest children, "Play!" They blew flutes, weaving countermelodies to Lisa's halting strum. Notes collided with void, igniting faint halos where sound met unsound. Null beasts shrieked, or perhaps silence shrieked around them, shrinking as though music penned them. Ellen forced herself to stand, pressed root seed to the soundboard of Lisa's harp. Seed pulsed, drawing tune from strings, amplifying. A single resonant wave rippled outward, like a bell rung inside the marrow of the world. Water erupted in concentric rings of gold. Null beasts folded into thin planes, then zipped away, leaving streaks of faint stardust that fell like black snow before winking out. Harps faded. Sea resumed normal sway. Stars returned, but dimmer. 3 constellations near horizons still missing. The 1 sailors named Wolf's Child, Dragon's Bride, and Swordbearer. Ellen studied Rootseed. Its glow had faded to ember. "We cannot fight many more," she said. "Then we find their heart quickly," Lisa answered, voice raw. 3 nights later they breached a frontier of roiling vapor, wisps that revealed glimpses of colossal stone colonnades half-submerged, each pillar inscribed with glyphs part Valyrian, part runic, part unknown. Above hovered shards of floating rock tethered by bright threads anatomized from nothingness itself. Within the largest ring of pillars, the sea parted into whirlpool funnel opening onto cavernous abyss. From it rose the stolen constellations, rotating like jewels around invisible spindle. Bran's disembodied whisper seemed to drift across deck. "Gate. Bridge the cord." Lisa ordered all lanterns dark except twin beacon. She raised harp again, fingers bleeding at tips. Forest children joined. They conjured chord sequences gleaned from Bran's route maps. Orain timed every strike of blade against ship's bell at quarter notes, harmonics forging glissando that braided wall, flame, and harrow deep grief. The missing stars pulsed brighter atop whirlpool. Lines of unseen stave appeared, weaving across sky. Crew watched, slack-jawed, as the pattern formed sheet music cosmic in scale. Ellen stepped to gunnel Rootseed in shaking palm. She recalled Bran's last instruction, and her own dread. She touched seed to lips, sang a lullaby her grandsire Sam once sang about a fat black bird who lost its voice but found courage. Seed brightened, shed petals like molten glass that drifted upward to join Starscore. Wind roared, whirlpool narrowed. An immense form stirred beneath swirling water, not physical but living absence. The void cantor, embodiment of sound eaten. It rose as a smooth sphere darker than pit black, surfaced without ripple. From it radiated waves that unraveled chords midair. Timbers creaked. Musicians staggered as melodies tore. Ellen saw only one path. She climbed rail. Commander Orain grabbed her arm. "Don't," he mouthed, but she pressed forehead to his. "Dawn guides me." Before he could answer, she vaulted over. Crew shrieked, yet she did not fall. Rootseed spun before her, creating ribbon of hovering crystalline steps. She sprinted toward Sphere across mid-air walkway. With each stride she sang, voice cracking, "Little crow lost your song, breathe once, sing anew." Crystal steps disintegrated behind as she passed. When she reached Sphere's surface, she slammed seed into it. Sound vanished. Every timber groan, water slosh, even heartbeats. Silence reigned absolute. Then within mind's eye bloomed chorus. Jon's laughter, Daenerys's dragons, Sam's harp, Arya's wolf call, Bran's raven wing. Ellen felt her flesh dissolve into resonance, her fears consumed by purpose. The seed cracked, releasing pure white cord that lanced through Sphere, tearing silence as dawn tears night. Sphere imploded. Wave of sound blossomed outward, harmless to living yet deadly to void. Lost constellations flared overhead, fixed again in firmament. Pillars shuddered. Floating rocks settled gentle into sea, forming ring islets that glowed warm. On twin flame, too, the harpists found themselves holding silent instruments. Strings melted to gold dust. Lisa's tears burned tracks on salt-tan cheeks. Commander Orain knelt, dawn blade across knees, mourning and awe mingled. A brilliance coalesced above settling waters. Not void, not flame. A silhouette of Ellen, woven of starlight, smiling serene. She raised luminous hands. Song drifted soft as hush upon newborn. The tune carried comfort, memory, promise. As crew listened, wounds knitted, fatigue lifted. When final note faded, Ghost Ellen ascended to join twin auroras now reforged into triune ribbon, gold, silver, and gentle rose. The pillars hummed once more, then fused, forming a navigable archway. On its keystone gleamed fresh glyph. Song keeps the world. The return voyage bore no monsters. Gulls escorted them within sight of Tor Marzal. News raced ahead on air currents. The triune aurora visible across continents. Samwell Tarly's eldest now, Archmaester, reported healing of cracked bells in every sept. Children everywhere woke midnight singing lullaby of brave little crow. Round Hall convened again. Bran's empty chair remained at Circle's north, draped in living grass. Lisa told tale. Orain placed Dawn Blade upon dais, its edge now rose-tinted permanent. Forest speakers announced that the void threads had healed. Harmony extended beyond Sunset Sea. But they cautioned, melody thrives only as long as singers tend it. Thus the Circle decreed new orders. The Cantor Guild, harpists, flautists, drummers, would accompany every sea expedition, equal rank to captains. Maesters would teach children root song before letters. Each village would craft its own small guardian lantern, tuned to local hearts. And to honor Maester Ellen Tarley, year 109 AD was named the first Cantor year. The festival of Crowsong would begin each spring equinox. All bells muted, all mouths silent for heartbeat of dawn. Then, as sun crested, infants would be encouraged to babble. First sounds renewing vow that world belongs to those learning music anew. Bran passed peacefully that same equinox, eyes fixed on sky's ribbons. Legends claim the twin flames dipped once, momentarily forming a fourth shade, soft green, color of dream leaves. Centuries will later speak of the long harmony's age, when no king rose above another, when fleets mapped all seas, when great halls used music to mend quarrels before steel left scabbards. But somewhere in each bard's refrain remains the memory of those who gave voice. Jon and Daenerys who became flame, Ellen who became cord, and countless unnamed sailors keeping watch under quiet stars. Because though night always returns, men and women now know its counterpoint. That a single melody on a battered harp, played by bleeding fingers with a wolf standing guard, can hold darkness at bay until dawn chooses to rise again.